All right, well, welcome back to everybody. For those of you just joining, this is Introduction to Programming. We happen to be using Python. Alongside Susan Ibach, I am Christopher Harrison. One thing that I do want to mention, kind of again, we are seeing a lot of great questions in the Q&A.
Yep.
We're going to do our best to try and incorporate some of that. We're going to do our best to answer everybody as we go through this. But one of the things that is worth highlighting is that there's really only two of us, and a couple of other support people as well. I shouldn't downplay, like Kristen, and I think Matt might be listening in as well.
But the technical questions are really on us.
Exactly. So we're sort of outnumbered up here. We're doing our absolute best, but we're outnumbered and we're a little busy. We're doing this live broadcast here. Again, it's 10:05 Pacific on the 23rd. So kind of bear with us, but we are doing our absolute best. We appreciate all of the interaction that's going on there. That's fantastic. Now, we left off getting our screen to display Hello World, which, again, is that standard stock, hey, congratulations, you're now a coder. But now let's take that next step. So now let's take a look at how we can display a bit more out onto our screen. It's my first day with the language. I can't speak French. I can't speak English.
We're talking about how you have to practice, Christopher. Maybe you need to practice some of the English as well as the coding.
Would you believe I'm a professional presenter? I know I don't show it all that often. But in any event, why don't you lead the way and show us how we can do something else beyond just Hello World?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things what we're going to get into now is the types of things we can display on the screen, getting into displaying some text on the screen. Because if you think about what we use computers to do, we use computers to read ebooks on planes.
Yep.
Look up movie reviews.
Yep.
I saw a movie yesterday. I was looking up information on the movie because I was like, I think I read a book that was based on. So I wanted to see if that was, in fact, based on the book I had read. Reading instructions on how to clean crayon off your walls. I had to look that up once. Yes, I am a mom. The kids were quiet in the basement for a little while, and when I went downstairs, they had been happily coloring all over the walls. And by the way, the answer to that question is WD-40, in case you ever need to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently the oil breaks down the crayon, so... Very useful fact for the day.
Interesting. In my case, because we just have a dog, and he's yet to actually pick up crayons and draw on the wall. And honestly, if he picked up a crayon and drew on the wall, that really wouldn't be a problem. I would be rich. I have a crayon-using dog.
You would be taking a YouTube video and posting it most
Exactly.
likely.
Yes, I'd be celebrating.
You'd be posting videos, I'm sure. Or maybe you want to learn all about the capybara.
The capybara?
Okay, well, now I know what my coding example is going to be. I'm going to teach you all about the capybara. It's a fascinating creature. But really what I want to get back to is the idea that a lot of computer programs, what they do in terms of the problem they solve is they provide information to the user. And so what we're going to look at is one of the simple things we have to be able to do if we're going to write a program that's going to provide information to a user, and that's the ability to display text.
Yep. So
in Python, we do that with the print command. Very simple, basic command. So if you go take a look, you've got you've got a print statement there that allows you, and the print statement is a command, and then you have parentheses surrounding. So these parentheses are essential. You have to have parentheses surrounding the statement or that you want to print on the screen. The other thing you're going to notice here is if you take a look, you're going to see quotes around the string. So that indicates that we have a string of text. So you have to have a single quote at each end of your string to indicate the text you actually want to display on the screen.
Makes sense.
Yep. Pretty straightforward, hopefully. Go away. I accidentally just I hit the wrong key to get rid of my little things all over the screen. Yeah, exactly. Wrong tool, using the wrong thing to get my little pen marks all over the screen. Now, I was mentioning that Python's a fairly forgiving language. And one of the things that's really nice about it is the single quotes that I was showing you there. Python also allows you to do a print statement with double quotes if you want. So if you take a glance at the slide, you can see I can also use double quotes to enclose the string I want to display on the screen.
Okay.
Python doesn't care. So if you like single quotes, go with single quotes. If you like double quotes, go with double quotes.
All right.
Nice and simple. So let's just do a little example. Let me tell you all about the capybara, Christopher.
Yes, tell me about the capybara.
All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to create another project. File, new project. I'm going to select the programming language Python, project type Python application, and this is going to be our module 2, displaying text. So I'm going to
Displaying text. Okay.
I'm going to save that in there, so that way if people want to see these code examples later, it's easy for them to find it.
Perfect.
And I already have a basic print statement here, but we've already done hello world, so I'm going to change that statement to say the capybara is the world's largest rodent. I don't know if you're aware of that fact.
I did.
It is.
So it's an ROUS.
A rodent of unusual size. Excellent
Okay.
Princess Bride reference there, Christopher. And
Thank you.
Score 1, I actually recognized one of Christopher's movie references. And then I can the capybara likes to live in groups.
Okay.
Yeah, so live in groups. See, I'm making typing mistakes already. Now, I did mention you could use double quotes if you prefer. So I could also specify that the capybara can swim. So it actually goes on water and land.
Right.
So once I have my print statements, like I said, I can use single quotes or the double quotes. Then I go ahead and I launch my program, and we can see the output displayed on the screen to the user. So,
Okay.
nice and hopefully nice and straightforward. Okay, so that's how we print basic text. Now, one of the things you'll notice is I did print out multiple lines of text. You can see that, first of all, oops, I think I went ahead one. That's strange. I seem to be missing a slide. But you can see I can use multiple print statements to print text across multiple lines. Now, the other question that comes up is because I can choose between single quotes and double quotes, does it matter which I use? What do you think, Christopher? Does it actually matter if I use single or double quotes?
Well, you're asking me the question, so I'm going to go with a yes there.
Well played, my friend.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at this example on the slide here. What if you want to print a string that says, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood? Well, here's the interesting aspect of that particular string. If you were to enclose that string inside single quotes,
Right.
then the problem is it has a single quote in the string. So what ends up happening is when you are using the tool is Python is going to think that the string ends here because it sees that quote.
That's not a good thing.
No. So in this situation, because I'm actually using a single quote inside the string, I have to use double quotes to enclose it.
Okay.
If I had a double quote somewhere inside the string, then I
Right.
would use, go for it, Christopher.
Single quotes.
Correct.
Yes.
If there's a double quote inside my string, I'm going to use single quotes to enclose the full string. So that's so I can choose that one either way. It's going to erase my ink. There we go. All right. So if there's a string you're displaying and it contains a single or double quote, that is going to force you to choose one or the other. But otherwise, I would say, and we were talking about good habits to develop, pick one and stick with it. Don't write half your program with single quotes, the rest of your program with double quotes, because somebody's going to come and look at your code later and go, well, is it significant that here you use single quotes versus double quotes? And it can be confusing for yourself when you're trying to remember later, or for someone else who's trying to understand your code.
Exactly.
So do generally pick one and stick with it. All right. Now, here was my slide. I was looking at what if I want the text to actually appear on multiple lines. You can use multiple print statements.
Actually, it's funny. We just had a question about that. So it's
Oh,
perfect
did we?
timing.
Awesome. Yeah. So I can use multiple statements, do one print, another print. Or another way of doing it is I can actually insert a /n. This is a backslash. And this backslash symbol is a special character that Python recognizes. And it basically says, hey, I've got a command I want to sneak in here.
Right.
And /n means I want to insert a new line. There's also a /t, which would insert a tab if you wanted to indent something.
Okay.
Also can be useful. So if you prefer to type everything on one line, you can just insert that /n in the code, and that will insert a new line right in it. So if you take a look at the slide here, you can see that my output, hickory dickory dock, appears on the first line,
Right.
and in the output, the mouse ran up the clock shows up on the second line. And there is another really funky trick, and I have never seen this in any other programming language. Python actually allows you to enclose a string inside triple quotes.
Okay, then.
Ever seen that one before, Christopher?
I have not. That's relatively unique.
It is, but the triple quotes, and it can either be triple single quotes or triple double quotes.
Okay.
But when you do this, you can actually write your print statement over as many lines as you want inside Visual Studio, and it will appear on the output the same way you typed it into the editor.
Okay.
So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. I'm just going to do a couple of examples inside Visual Studio of how that would work. So I can say print. Apparently, if I can type print. So let's try the new line approach. Let's see. The capybara lives in /n, and it's the backslash, not the forward slash.
Backslash, so
Yes.
upper left, lower right.
Yeah, America. So it lives in South America. Oops, I can't mix up single quotes and double quotes in one line of code. That
Right.
would be a bad idea.
By the way, so one of the things that came up in the chat window
Yes.
is what would happen if I wanted to print out a string
Yep.
that had both a single quote and double quotes.
Oh, okay. Let's after we get this, let's try that.
Okay,
We'll
all right.
solve that little problem.
Okay, all right.
That's an
All right.
excellent question, but we will take a look at that.
Okay.
So here I can see the capybara lives in South America. You can see that going across for 2 lines.
Okay.
So we've got that successfully working. And just as an example of this is the strangest way to print over multiple lines I know, which is this mysterious triple quote system. So it's perfectly valid. It does work. But it's a little unusual. It's
Yep.
not typical of most programming languages. Most of them will use either an escape character like the /n, or use multiple statements to print over the multiple lines.
Right.
Now, there was a question you said about how could I print something that contained a single quote and a double quote in the same line. All right. This is a little sneak peek at what we're going to see in the next chapter.
Okay.
Because one of the things you can do is you can actually, here is a string, and you can use a plus sign to take 2 strings and stick them together.
Okay.
So here is more. So I can actually use a plus sign to take 2 strings and treat them as one big long string. So now I can see that all appears as one big long string. So what I can do, and I have an extra space, so I'm going to get rid of that. So here is a double quote. And since that's a double quote, I'm going to put that inside a string that is single quotes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say here is a single quote, which is there. And I'm going to take the string that contains the single quote and enclose that in double quotes.
Okay.
So just a little creativity. And then I can get a double quote and a single quote appearing in a single line.
Okay. And, you know, and I know you're going to get into this kind of momentarily, but there's always multiple ways to do something.
Yes.
And one of the nice things about doing it that way, if we go back to Susan's screen here, I'm just going to kind of use Susan's screen to talk to, is that you are kind of breaking it down maybe into smaller bite-sized chunks, which can certainly be helpful. But one of the things that you could actually do with that backslash is you can use that to escape a quote, so that if you kind of backed out the, yeah, there you go. Just say print, and then say, or you can, and then just do this, backslash, double quote,
Yep.
and then hit a space, and put something right there. Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
All right.
And now let's go ahead and run it again. And then now you'll notice that you've got the double quote in there as well. So multiple ways that you can do something, which we should talk about that.
We should.
Yeah, we
will.
should. Okay.
So the backslash character, so it's a special character. It has special meaning to Python.
Yep.
And it's a way of saying, hey, don't treat this quote the same way. So it's a way of saying, just display this quote. It's not actually ending the string. So
Okay.
that's another neat trick. So
Yep.
a couple of options there in terms of different ways to solve that problem. So, I seem to be stuck in the drawing mode. So same problem, multiple solutions. So Christopher, I'm going to ask your opinion on this one.
Okay.
We have 3 different ways of printing text over multiple lines. Which do you like best?
So kind of going back to, that whole, so we've got multiple ways that we could do something. What's the best way? You know, for me, I really like that first one there, just that print, and I know that gets maybe a little bit more verbose.
Yep.
But, you know, that just seems to make more sense to me.
Yeah, it's easier to read when you come back to it later, isn't it?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have met people who seem to make almost a game out of seeing how much code they can fit into a single line. I have met coders who just live for cramming as much as they can into a single line. They're going to absolutely go for the option of using the \n to save on having to hit the return key. I mean, I guess maybe that's their way of being a lazy programmer. I respect everyone's right to be a lazy programmer their own way, but still include your comments.
Yep.
I would stay away from the triple quotes one just because it's not common. And that way, if somebody's coming from another programming language or you're going to another programming language later, you're not going to be able to keep that pattern.
Right. Yeah. And this is, sort of going back to the very beginning that, when we first kind of pitched all of this, the whole goal here is to help you get into programming. So not necessarily get into programming Python, but get into programming. And a lot of the concepts that we're going to be learning, loops and if statements and all of that are consistent across every programming language. Will allow you to store a variable. There will be different ways that you can do that, but you are going to notice that every language has its idiosyncrasies, has its own little quirks, and as a result, you'll want to kind of pay attention to those. And I don't want to necessarily always say steer away from those because a lot of times those idiosyncrasies can be quite helpful.
Sometimes they allow you to do things that would be very difficult to do in another language.
Exactly.
But in this case, we have easy alternatives that are more common. So stick with the more conventional way of doing it, I would recommend in this case.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people love the triple quotes, though.
It's neat.
Yeah,
I'm getting a
lot
funky
of
trick.
comments here. Yeah, love the
Yeah, it's funny you said, but it's a neat, funky trick. I'd never seen it before I saw Python.
Yep.
There's another one that said, and that really is it. As a coder, one of the things you want to be aware of, there's often more than one way to solve the same problem.
Yep.
And a lot of times, it doesn't matter whether you use the /n. In the end, if the code works, you've done it. Awesome. Celebrate.
Yeah.
And in the end, that's what matters. Did you solve the problem? Does your code work? And
exactly.
If you've used an unconventional way of doing it, that's all right.
Exactly. A lot of people really get kind of just very, it has to be done this way. And I don't really have time for those types of arguments. If it's clean, if it's easy to read, that's really it. And even to kind of go one step further, maybe make this a little bit more advanced, a lot of times people start asking, well, what about performance? And if I write it this way, will it perform better than if I write it this way? And 99 out of 100 times, and in fact, probably 99.999% of the time, it's not going to make a difference, or it's going to make such a minuscule difference that, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So really, write the code that makes sense. Write the code that's clean, and go from there. So if we go back to the slide, do you still have your slide up? The one prior?
The geek tips or the print options?
Yeah. Choose the one that makes the most sense to you. Choose to me, it's print and print. If you like the backslash, then go with the /n. Then go with the.
And if you really like the triple quotes, go for it.
Exactly.
It's your code.
Exactly. So, and if I can steal just one last second, only just to kind of answer a couple of questions here. That / is an escape character. So for quotes, those have a special meaning. If you don't want it to have that special meaning, put a / in front of it. So /single, /double. If you want that new line, again, /n, that tab, /t. What would happen if you wanted a /?
Let's find out. Let's try and write.
Let's do it.
Let's try it. You know what? And this is actually one of the other truths of coding. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have the answer to everything. You can't find it. Sometimes the easiest way to find out the answer is to try it. Can I just print a / on the screen? Because, if that's a special character, is that going to do something weird? Is that what you want?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, let's see what happens. No problem.
There you go.
So no worries. If you want to print a /, just put a / in the string.
Put a / in there.
It's actually Python, as we mentioned, is a fairly forgiving language. There's other programming languages where you'd actually have to go //. But not in Python.
You are going to notice at times you have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will notice at times you are going to need that double /. Yeah. But if you want, just in the middle of two spaces, just go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you would need the two /.
Yeah.
So
the challenge that you're talking about would be let's talk about.
Yeah, like a file path.
But what if I want /n to appear
there you go.
on the screen.
Perfect.
/news, like I'm putting maybe a URL for a website, right, that I'm displaying. Someone go to this website, and the website happens to start with N.
Yep.
Oh, wait. Gee, could that possibly cause a problem?
I'm predicting an
Oh.
ooze. See, ew.
It's like I planned it, but I didn't. So yeah, there is a situation where the slash was misinterpreted. It took it as a slash n, but I actually wanted to print the slash n. But yeah, how do we tell it don't treat it as a special character? What do we do with the single quote? You
Put in a
slash in front of
backslash.
it.
So we'll put in another backslash.
Which looks a little weird. You're looking at it, and this, you know what? This is a good time for a comment. I am inserting a slash slash, so the slash appears correctly
Yep.
in the string. So that's a perfect time to take a little note to yourself, because you're going to come back later and go, why do I have slash slash? And now when I run, there we go. Now I can get slash news.
Backslash. Yep. There you go.
Cool. So great questions. Keep those things coming, because yes, those are exactly the kind of things that catch you when you're trying to write your code later. That's why practice is so important, so you can encounter these odd little problems and gradually learn how to solve them. Okay, when good code goes bad, there is another really, really important programming concept you will need to learn as well, and that is the fact that it's okay to make mistakes in your code.
Right.
You will make mistakes in your code. We will make mistakes in our code today and tomorrow.
Promise.
Yes. So don't panic. Sometimes people, when they're writing code, they're like, oh, it's not working. I'm a terrible coder. No, you've just made a mistake, just like the rest of us do. You know, when I'm trying to learn another language, again, spoken language versus versus a programming language. I was going to say unspoken language, doesn't sound quite right. And I try to say something in German. Ich habe einen Schneeball auf meinem Kopf, which it means I have a snowball on my head. Useful phrase. I'm pronouncing that.
Flambe.
Yeah, I'm sure anyone out there who speaks German just cringed at my pronunciation. But I can't learn if I don't practice. And when I practice, yes, I'm going to mispronounce some words. Yes, I'm going to misconjugate some verbs. When I'm speaking in French, I'm going to get my masculin, féminin mixed up, those kinds of issues.
That was the thing that threw me.
No, it's the verbs in French.
Okay.
Verbs in French are brutal. I am from Canada. I am actually, je suis bilingue. Je peux parler en français si c'est nécessaire. So I can speak French. I've spent a lot of time with my bécherel. Anyone who's learned French knows what a bécherel is. But it's okay to make mistakes. Don't stress out over it. In fact, it's quite funny. Sometimes when I make a mistake in my code, it might be 2 lines of code and I can't figure it out. If you get really stuck, walk away and come back. Retype the line.
Yep.
Or if you have a friend nearby, it's amazing how often, if you look at someone else's code, you can see their mistake. And if they look at your code, they can see your mistake. It's the weirdest thing.
It's one of those things that, when you're focused in on a problem, you just get, tunnel vision. Yeah. And you keep thinking, well, it's got to be here. And having that fresh set of eyes can be extremely helpful. That one of the things that would happen quite frequently when I was in the classroom, and the same happened to you, is somebody would have a problem. You'd walk over, you take one look at their screen and immediately know, oh, okay, well, that's where your problem was. You would be able to immediately spot it. And it's not necessarily because we knew anything more than the student did or than the person that we were helping. It really was just simply that fresh set of eyes. And one of the things that I'll frequently do if I'm having a problem that I can't quite figure out is I'll just go for a walk.
Yep.
I'll just go get a coffee, I'll go to lunch, and then I'll come back with kind of a fresh mind, a fresh set of eyes, and then usually I'm able to spot it just that much faster. So that fresh mentality, that new set of eyes really helps out quite a bit when you're trying to track down a problem.
It's funny. When I used to teach programming courses and I would go around and a student had a mistake somewhere in their code and they couldn't find it, I would come over and, as you said, quite often I would find the mistake very quickly. I used to explain to the students, the reason I'm so good at finding mistakes in your code is because I've made so many. So the more mistakes you find in your code and make, the better you're going to get at finding mistakes in your code. So don't stress it. But we have to start practice, right? We talked about how do you get to Carnegie Hall? You practice. So I'd like us to try practicing finding mistakes.
Okay.
So
you're going to have to make some mistakes. Oh, you've got mistakes.
I have some code here that would actually, every one of these lines of code has a mistake in it, Christopher. Do you want to take a shot at where the mistakes are?
Well, before I do that, I want to point something out there is I'm noticing color differences.
Yeah.
The colors aren't the way that they're supposed to be. So I'm noticing print hickory dickory dock, but that hickory dickory dock, it's all black. So it's looking to me like Visual Studio, if this was Visual Studio, isn't picking that up as a string. So I'm going to say that you probably forgot the quotes there.
Exactly. We should have some quotes around the string, and because we left those quotes out, it's confused. It thinks that's a command. So you're right. The colors can give you a hint.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
How about the next line? You got one.
I got one. All right. Well done to me. And again, I'm noticing wrong colors. So I'm noticing it is red, but at the very end, then small world is all in black. And then towards the very end, that closing paren is back in red again. So obviously, again, there's something that Visual Studio isn't quite picking up. And it's looking to me like you've got that single quote on it.
Yes. So how do I fix it?
Well, you could do a few things. You could change double on either side.
Yep.
You could also do a backslash single quote as well if you want to keep that. Now, in this case, I'd probably go with the double and then the single in there. But either way would actually work.
Yeah, you could use a backslash as well. All right, 2 for 2. All right, keep going.
And again, noticing the color is that closing paren is red, and that shouldn't be red.
Yep.
So now I know that it's not picking up the end of the string, and if we take a look, I've got a double at the beginning and a single at the end.
Yes, so I've accidentally mixed up double single quotes in a single string. And this is, again, one of those reasons you want to get in the habit of always using one or the other, because if you mix them up, this is the kind of typing mistake you'd make so easily.
Exactly, yeah. That, kind of pick one thing and just go with it. Yeah, it's just going to make your life that much easier.
All right, I have one more typing mistake for you to find, Chris.
All right, let's see it. Right at the very beginning there, last I checked, it was INT.
Yes,
there
I've actually.
We go.
And you know what? It's funny, the color coding still can help because it didn't recognize it as a command.
Exactly.
So the text showed up in a different color. So let's see how you did. Sure enough, yes, well done.
Woo-hoo.
All right, high fives.
4 for 4. All right,
there we go. Good man. All right. So yeah.
I get to keep my job. I could get to stay here for the rest of the day.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
You're allowed to stay. It's all good.
Excellent.
So now, that brings us to the end of the new syntax we're going to introduce inside this module. You now know how to display text on the screen, which we talked about. You can now basically tell someone a story, you can tell someone a poem, you can give information about the capybara. Now everyone knows all about the capybara, the large South American rodent.
Yep.
So your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to write a program that will display the following poem on the screen. See, I was feeling creative. There once was a movie star icon who preferred to sleep with the light on. They learned how to code a device that sure glowed and lit up the night using Python.
Okay, we have our first limerick of the day. Fantastic.
So obviously this is text, it's going to appear over multiple lines. So basically it's just practice. You're looking at this going, hopefully saying, I can do that. Well, that's the goal.
Yep.
Right? So now you can do this over multiple lines. Experiment if you want to try including some slashes and things just to try it out. Try it. Go ahead. Explore.
Absolutely.
If you get stuck, the GitHub, when you download that zip file, in there you're going to find a folder called Solutions. You'll actually find a suggested solution. But it is only a suggested solution because you could solve this a lot of different ways. So if you come up with a solution and then you look at our solution afterwards and go, oh, I did it wrong because theirs code isn't the same as mine. No.
Nope.
That doesn't mean you did it wrong. What that means is you came up with a different way to solve the problem. And that's, again, score as a congrats. You are a coder kind of moment.
Exactly.
So congratulations. You can now write a computer program that will actually share information with the user.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And along those lines, just kind of real quick, because we're getting kind of a lot of questions about, hey, well, if we wanted to put together a variable.
It's like, well, guess what's covered in the very next module?
We are absolutely going to get into that. I'm also seeing things, like about this being easier than another language or about the lack of semicolons, definitely there. And the big thing, again, that we want to point out is the goal of this course is really to help you become a developer. So
and get comfortable with it.
Exactly,
It's not that scary.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to notice here that we're not going to really get into like databases. We're not going to get into object-oriented because that's not the goal here. The goal here is to help you get your feet wet, to help you get into programming. There's going to be plenty of time to get in and start doing object-oriented programming.
Yep.
There's going to be plenty of time to get in and take a look at how to create web apps with Python. But today, tomorrow, it's really about, let's before we can run, let's walk. And that's what today, tomorrow are all about, is just kind of those first steps into becoming a developer and inside of Python.
Absolutely. No, you've got to start with the basics, and that's what we're going to cover here.
Yep.
So I think that takes us to the end of this module. Let's take a little break, and we'll be back in another 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. All right, we will see you guys in 10.